I start reading these emails, then the ideas just start flooding in. Get stuck in and do the piece yourself and be your authentic self. And that's one of the key things I always say about copywriting is just be yourself. Just have some personality. There's so much sludge out there. Sludge is the perfect word to describe like this AI world. It's a big mistake a lot of businesses make. Trying to appeal to everyone, they appeal to no one off the back of it.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Just Send It to Marketing, a podcast where we analyze a brand, a story, a campaign, but most of all things marketing. And for this episode, I would like to welcome Daryl Charman. He's a copywriter and founder of The Content Chef, an award-winning digital content marketing agency based in Cheltenham. So welcome, Daryl, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's actually my first podcast, this. So, you're breaking the podcast virginity for me, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, awesome. So I'm not going to mention that we had a big problem on the software. So for you, I'm sorry about that your first experience has been a bit traumatizing, but...
No, it's technology, it's a Friday as well, so it's probably, just malfunctioning a little bit. No, not a problem. No, it's giving us time to catch up, isn't it?
Yeah, no, brilliant. So Daryl, if you don't mind just telling us a little bit more about your journey, how you started in copywriting and then entrepreneur, business owner to award-winning agency.
It's been a long journey, really. So I started off in terms of marketing and copywriting back in 2013. So I come out of university and essentially had so many options. You know, you don't know where you're going to go. I had a degree in English literature and film script writing. So I was always very creative, all about words and language. So my sort of options were I was looking to go into like maybe journalism, for example. I was doing a lot of radio hosting at the time and also just writing scripts as well. And then I saw marketing. So it was a little bit of a sporadic choice to go into it. But what I sort of fell in love with was the sort of opportunities to tell stories, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. And to represent other businesses, help people as well. So there's just more avenues to be creative. I think sometimes with journalism and, you're stating the facts, or at least you should be anyway in journalism. So I just like the opportunity. So I started off and started working for different companies, some agencies, moved around the country a lot, and just sort of fell into different jobs. And weirdly, I'm not going to pretend I mapped out my journey from start to finish. It was just went with the flow, moved to different places. Life takes you to different areas, which sort of paid off later down the line. And after working for other companies for around sort of 5 years, it's actually made redundant for the second time, which was a big learning curve. But I think the second time I already knew it was going to come. So I started setting up Content Chef beforehand. So when the news come, I was absolutely fine with it. I was ready to jump ship and start my new adventure. So fast forward 7 years actually to literally last week when I started self-employment properly. So that's where Content Chef started. So it was essentially just me at the start, and then things just sort of ticked along nicely. Picked up some really good accounts to start off with, like Holland and Barrett and Halford, a few others as well, and worked with smaller businesses on top of that, which was really good as well to see the journey. And then during lockdown, obviously you had that brief moment where everybody is thinking, what on earth's going to happen? First month kicked in and I just rolled my sleeves up again because I was probably coasting a little bit as a freelancer at the time. And then, things just took off then as I worked even harder, and I had an opportunity to either pass work on or just make a mad decision and start hiring people and going for it. So I like a challenge, and that's it really. And then again, just been learning on the job ever since, and that's been almost 4 years now as a company. So as an agency.
Awesome. So now in your agency, how big is your team now? Because you started with just you.
Yeah, we're still relatively small. It's and that's kind of the way that I like to sort of operate, because number one, it's obviously easier to manage. And then number two as well, I think you can give a better sort of service off the back of it. One of our big sort of USPs, especially in the local area, is being hands-on. I'll be speaking to the owners. It's not always great for me on a weekend where I'm trying to have a little bit of downtime, but at the same time, I enjoy getting my hands dirty and getting stuck in. I couldn't get myself away from the creative side, even if it means I can't grow to £1 billion business. It's probably not really on my radar. So.
And tell me about the head of happiness that I can see on your website.
Yeah, Monkey's my right-hand man, really. He's my dog. He's been there since the start. Yeah, so I've had him since he was 2 months old as a puppy, and he's 10 actually next week. So he's an old man now.
Yeah. Congratulations to him.
He's brought in a lot of business. Just exploiting his services, just his cute face. Yeah.
I wanted to actually take a moment and even mention your merchandise, Daryl. Like the branding on it is so clear. Like the logo of Content Chef. It's amazing. I had a question since the time I've seen your website. Like, how did you come up with that name? Because it's something very different. I have basically the first perception when I saw the name or I read the name was you curating recipes for each customer, so like curating the content like a chef. So, that pure curation or customization. So what was the idea behind the name?
I've given a lot of answers about this before. If I'm the brutal, honest answer is it just sounded right. So my brain works in very odd, weird ways. We don't need to delve into that. We'll be here for about 4 hours probably. But it just sounded, rolled off the tongue. I quite like the idea that I could have puns with it. You're exactly right what you're talking about, sort of cooking things up, ingredients, got the flavors, extra like stuff like that. It made it quite easy to, and a little bit more approachable as well. It just felt right when I put the name together. And then down the line, which is on the website, I started looking a little bit more into like the language and everything. So I didn't realize that the word chef is actually, the origins come from the spelling of the word chief originally. So chief means sort of boss or leader. So I accidentally fell into it, if I'm being honest, where it's actually got a story in itself. But the main thing is, and obviously I can talk about this for the storytelling element, is you always, even if you fall into something just because it feels right, there's always a story to be told. Either way, it's how you fall into that sort of story is another thing altogether. But yeah, sometimes you don't have to look for the story. It sort of comes to you and then you look for it afterwards. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we've had a lot of fun with it since. So yeah, it's been great.
Darryl, I want to ask you more on now jumping to the copywriting and which is your core service. So from a service business perspective, how can I make sure that I'm writing right to my audience?
I mean, first of all, it comes all the way back to like the initial work that you've done in terms of like understanding your target personas. So that's probably a big challenge that a lot of smaller businesses have, where they almost skip past the foundations. Like it's like building a house, isn't it? If you don't lay the foundations and then you just try and put bricks up, etc., then it's going to come crumbling down. So it can work and you can get some instant success, but in terms of long-term success, you need to drill down on your audience. So it's doing your research, little things, actually taking the time to go into things like reading feeds on Reddit, for example, understanding how people are talking, then doing your social media research as well, looking at counts. So it's always good to, what I usually get clients to do is, especially if they're a smaller or business or startup, is write down, first of all, who they want to be. It sounds a little bit deeper than it needs to be, but how do you want people to think of you before you even get started? So even before you write that blog, you do a social media post, you set up that ad campaign. Who are you? What do you want to be known as? So if you want to be the funny guy, that's fine. Do you want to be playful? That's fine. Just write down these words. Everybody knows words in whatever language you use. Just write them down. And then after that, start looking into competitors. So you can see, I'm in marketing, content marketing. I'm looking around the local audience, local competitors to start off with. And then you think maybe bigger and better, you go more UK wide, worldwide, etc. And then I also get them to think about writing down a list of just accounts, social media, website content, just businesses they like the tone of. It doesn't have to be the same industry. It could be, everybody always waffles on about innocent smoothies, don't they, with their great social media. I know some of the supermarkets like Aldi and Lidl are pretty hot on campaigns and from a social media perspective. And then you've got good websites, like even the smaller businesses. You stumble upon something, just write it down. So yeah, it was a long-winded way to get to your answer, but you need to start off with this sort of piece to really make your words resonate with the right people. Otherwise, you're just sort of firing out sort of words to everyone, and you probably won't attract the right audience.
Daryl, as you mentioned right now that, you ask clients to come up with the references of tonality for their website. And so I wanted to ask you, does culture play a role here when you decide a tonality? Because in some cultures, when you speak a bit informally, some people get offended, or, it's very like cultural sensitivity comes in place when you write content.
It's a really good question, especially nowadays as well. Like things are a little bit, it's more sensitive time, so you have to be careful in terms of what you say from a marketing perspective. You don't want to offend, and rightfully so. So where I would start with that would be, it all comes back to the meetings where I'd almost extract information from the business owner. So, for example, one of you guys are the business owner. I'd just be listening to the words that you're actually using, because if you're the decision maker, then you can already get a sense of the language that you like. And especially if it's a personal branding piece, that's really good information. But even when it comes to blogs, everybody's got a preference. They've got a select amount of words they like. So if you read something that I've written, or you've read something from someone else that they've written, you will start to notice themes of certain words that they use, how they construct sentences and go weave into different paragraphs. I can spot them from a mile away. So even from when I'm speaking to someone, as long as I'm not too tired, of course, so I have to make sure I'm on the ball, you can extract these sort of words and language that they like. So that's a starting point. In terms of making sure you don't offend people, or you get the tone right in different cultures, I think it's about being switched on and having an open mind to everything. So understanding, if you've got a very narrow mind or narrow approach to embracing different cultures, understanding different people's opinions, then you're probably not going to be the best in terms of this industry. You have to. It's about, like, I've said this many years ago, it just comes to the top of mind, that I've written about the key to sort of opening your mind is obviously to do this traveling thing, to go around the world, to make sure your holidays aren't just, if you're a Brit, it's probably Spain, isn't it? Which is fine, but if you go to Spain, can you go to a different place that's not the tourist hubs where all the Brits are? Can you expand and they barely speak English, and you start to understand? So I know it's quite a broad sort of answer, but I think if you take all these different things, understand different cultures, understand different references, what people like and what they don't, look at comments on social media posts, just read more, then you're going to start to understand a little bit more. And you'll also become more of a rounded person. So it all comes back to the content you're creating. So I think it's down to a personal thing, really. If you want to be that open, that's good. If you're not, you might struggle.
I just feel that we are being analyzed by you now, by the way we speak and the words we use. I'm a bit nervous now.
I'm a little bit tired, so you're okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you, I guess, Derek, what you're saying is basically keep up to date with the trends as well. So what's going on in your industry, what your peers are talking about, or even your audience, but try to be open-minded as well to see the bigger picture.
Exactly. Yeah. I know sometimes can watching news, and it can be a little bit depressing at times. But there are actually good avenues. I'm probably going to go down a rabbit hole here, but things like I receive a weekly email from Positive News. It's great. You just get all these positive, lovely stories from around the world, and it just all these different things. Definitely subscribe to loads of emails, for example, like newsletters. Not from the ones that aren't newsletters and they're more e-shops and they're trying to sell you things.
I know.
But the newsletter stuff where you get the valuable content, it just keeps the cogs turning. So I find when things go a little bit quieter through the day, once you've got through the madness of the 9 to 5, whether it's before or after, I start reading these emails, then the ideas just start flooding in. And you just make notes of them. You don't have time to do them now. That's absolutely fine. You can do them a few weeks down the line. So it's just keeping an open mind to it. And also a big thing around that whole trends piece as well is you're only one person, or I'm one person in terms of our agency. I was always very used to being just one person as a freelancer, which that was the big transition, probably a big challenge at first. And now you just need to, I've needed to understand, and a big thing about it is just surrounding yourself around people who've got different ideas, whether it's different ages, different backgrounds, come from different cultures. Even better if it's from all these different diverse, like a diverse cocktail. You're just throwing it all in. They can come up with different ideas, and it makes your content more rounded off the back of it. You start coming up with some really wacky and weird ideas, but some work, some don't. But that's part of the fun.
For sure. You mentioned the content creation and be kind of personal, but also relatable to your audience. And the first thing that comes to my mind, and we're going to have to jump into that, is AI, obviously.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? What's your take on AI, generative content?
I think there's loads. I mean, when it initially come on the scene, I was worried a little bit. Like in terms of when there was a peak, it's actually been around AI or forms of AI for decades. But ChatGPT, as it's become very popular, and all these other different avenues more for image creation, it's been the last sort of 4-5 years, and then the last 2 years it exploded, possibly last year or the year before. At the time, I was a little bit worried, but then what I have found in terms of a business side is at first everybody started trying to use it, and now it's come full circle, and they've come back and realized it's a lot of, the word is regenerative, if I can get that out properly. It's not taking anything original. Don't get me right, it could, down the line, it could change completely, but it's just taking things from the internet. So it's fine for some people, it's going to work for some people, but I wouldn't personally think, I think you can achieve a lot more by using it maybe as a wall you're bouncing ideas off. If you just need some ideas, because a lot of the time, especially when it comes to short form content where it needs to be short and punchy and powerful and really tell a message, I haven't quite cracked that. I've played around with it a lot because I've got to, part of the industry, but what it does do is it gives me a couple of ideas, and maybe that word, I've just forgotten about that word and it's come back to me. This language so broad, and then I just take that, and then my cogs start going again. It gets them going, and then you come out with all these great creative ideas. So I think it's just an assistant. It's your PA or VA. That's the way that I see it. I don't see it really replacing people like us in the copywriting industry. I do get a little bit annoyed if someone would just use that. They're going to and take it as gospel. That worries me a little bit. I see the little disclaimer on ChatGPT at the bottom now where it says like it makes mistakes. I'm glad they put that out there. Sometimes people need it in bold print to see. But yeah, I just think it's an assistant tool. So I've come around to it being that little idea of the right hand man sort of thing or person. Yeah.
And it is important that people are upfront about using AI, because I've come across content online and you can tell it's AI generated because you know the person, and you know that the person don't speak like that or write like that, and use certain words. Can't just write a blog post and okay, this is what I have and put on my website, and you just can't do that. Maybe one day you will be able to, but not yet.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think it comes back to this storytelling piece that I've sort of referenced a couple of times. Obviously, I spoke about the language and taking bits of information, how people like to speak. Yes, you can sort of feed Chat GPT that, but it will still use certain words, and I can spot it from a mile away. Same with punctuation as well. And also like, with the storytelling aspect, is it really going to understand you and how you talk? It just takes ages, and you could end up just spending a lot of time trying to feed it and getting more and more annoyed at this thing, which isn't a thing. It's not a human. And whereas you could just get stuck in and do the piece yourself and be your authentic self. And that's one of the key things I always say about copywriting is just be yourself, be authentic. People buy into this, people buy from people thing. So yeah, and also just have some personality. There's so much sludge out there. Sludge is the perfect word to describe like this AI world that people are actually posting more, like it's a quantity thing over quality. And they're in a race to tell their story when really you should slow down and create this whole journey with it and really take care with the words you're using. So it really does work. It's worked for us. It's worked for loads of businesses we've worked with. And you're not regurgitating those same things. For example, if you're speaking about like writing a blog, like you mentioned a minute ago, how many blogs you see, like listicle ones are great. They're always great in terms of engagement, open rates. But then say you're looking for a place to go on holiday and it's the same stuff. It's like 5 best places to travel in Europe and it's the same place every time. It's the same rubbish. Whereas if it come from someone who maybe specializes in travel writing, for example, they've seen it. They were taken around by a local. Again, it's having this open mind to different cultures, different getting around, understanding things. And I also, I was thinking about this the other day. I was having a conversation about if you feed that much information into something, you're kind of losing the why in everything. So you won't understand why it's not performing. Why, like it's just the whole why piece here that say it goes wrong, this piece doesn't perform well, fine, that happens. And I could write something, it doesn't work, but it does work on other occasions. But the difference is here that I'm going to know why that has worked, or I can get to the bottom of it quite quickly. So I understand what the subject is, I understand what I changed about this particular piece, I understand the SEO, like we're going into the blog side of things, the website content. Whereas if you're just feeding it and then you're just regurgitating it, and I think it's just a problem overall in life. We're just trying to race all the time when we should just slow down, create quality, and tell your story. Yeah, it's a funny one.
I wanted to ask about the connection of like content and storytelling. So do you think that the founder story is only important for the brand, or do you think the product, basically how was this cloth made, even that story can get more involvement? Like, is it specific to the brand or everything?
I think it's everything, but you break it down. So this is where a good strategy would come in handy, where you're maybe one post or one piece that you're writing, maybe a website page specifically, or an ad campaign is geared towards storytelling about the actual owner, the founder. Whereas you've got other pieces that are more about like the products, but then they do interlink anyway. So the concept of the product comes from that person anyway. So if you can tell this person's story, it's going to help sell this product more. So the product has more depth to it, has more of a background story people can get behind it. So no, I do think that one of the most key parts of marketing now is that personal piece. Even if it's a big brand, there's still a storytelling aspect to it. It comes back to loads of different things, whether it's sort of this emotional marketing piece, nostalgia marketing is a big thing as well. It's just tapping into these things and understanding the origins of things. It helps you understand why they did things more. It's the Simon Sinek thing, isn't it? Goes back to the why.
I wanted to ask you as well, Daryl, from a small business perspective, how can I start and tell my story in a professional business manner that will probably attract my leads?
I I think, although I know this is a common sort of conversation that we have with smaller businesses or startups, is maybe the budget isn't there, like Coca-Cola or some of these big brands, big players out there. But the actual basis of how you do things, like the foundations, are very similar. So think about the different types of posts. If we're talking about social media here, for example, it's a little bit of an easier example. You focus on, so I always use like an 80-20 rule in social media. So you're using 80%. This is more B2B. Don't get me wrong. If you're a restaurant selling food, you're going to be just selling food really, and then a few brand pieces along the way. But the slightly harder marketing, in my opinion, where you're actually selling to businesses, 80-20, you're offering value, you're telling your story within that 80 as well. So you've got your origins, how things started, your journey, maybe something you learned back in the day. And then also in terms of like the actual tips, your knowledge. So can we position you as a thought leader, as an individual, as a business, like a market leader? And then the 20 is a little bit of selling. It doesn't necessarily, and even in that selling, I will probably categorize testimonials and case studies. It's not direct, buy my product,
no, hard
buy
sell.
the service. It's not a hard sell, yeah.
Click here to buy.
Yeah, but those things are essential occasionally. Just put them in as well into the mix, because that's what you're there for at the end of the day. But the best way with this, I guess it's not a direct. I could list loads of different ways you can actually sort of start this storytelling element. But the best thing to remember is, this is how I describe it to small businesses. It's kind of like if you're starting out in a relationship. So you bring it back to this whole story of finding the one. So you wouldn't go straight down the altar, would you? You wouldn't go straight to marrying them unless it's married at first sight. It's not happening, and that's probably why everybody watches that show. But you will get to know them. You will take time to tell the story before you get to that sort of stage. And then after a while, it's like those people will sort of start to fall in love with your story. So, but you have to sort of tell this in a sort of slower manner. You get to know them. I don't want to use the word nurture because it's a marketing term, and in terms of love, that's horrible, but it sounds a bit creepy. But you get the idea, where you're sort of laying the foundations, you're going on the dates. And also one thing to remember within that as well is you're not going to be everyone's type on paper, so to speak, if we go in Love Island terms. And that's okay. I think everybody's trying to appeal sometimes. There's a big mistake a lot of businesses make. Trying to appeal to everyone, they appeal to no one off the back of it. Whereas if they do they understand their audience, they write the right content, they're going to, these people are going to fall in love with them, the right people, not the wrong people. So it's a bit of a weird analogy, but I think it actually works. It's and everybody understands it because it's a universal language, isn't it?
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, I think we have that kind of almost like a to-do list on how to do your storytelling.
Seriously.
I've written blogs on this, so I'm sure I can just send you the link if you want the polished version.
I'm sure you're going to have your links on the description. So if anybody wants to follow Daryl, his LinkedIn is going to be on the description, but also the Content Chef socials and the website as well. So go and check them and have a look for the Head of Happiness.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's all over the website anyway.
Daryl, thank you very much for sharing, obviously, your journey and your copywriting and marketing knowledge with us. It was incredible having you on board, and thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hi, it's me, Prachi. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to check Daryl's LinkedIn profile and website link in the description below. Also, make sure to subscribe or follow us wherever you are watching or listening to this. And please share this episode and leave a comment. See you again in 2 weeks. Bye.